Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Ball Watching. The duo's back together. Jake Koenig, Justin Graham on the mics for you all tonight for a show that's going to talk about this last draw with the Galaxy at home here, and we're gonna scrape the U.S. men's national team as well. Justin, we haven't talked about it, I don't think, together in a long time. But remember the days of the World Cup and the recaps and previews for all those matches. It was so much fun, and we're a year out from being right back in that same spot, which is absolutely nuts. So big show for you all today. Hopefully everyone's having a nice Monday to start the week. Justin, how are you? How have things been? How was Energizer Park? I didn't get to go.
Energizer Park was actually awesome, Jake. I was a little worried with it being El Trash Go with the two worst teams in the West. It wasn't going to be a big showing. Absolute sellout. They did everything. It was essentially it was our first game at home in June for Pride Month, and they did the works. We had an incredible tifo that says "We come in peace." They did fireworks. We did everything. It was actually an awesome experience and an awesome atmosphere. I'm sad that that's our last day home game of the season. We got two back-to-back for home games when we played 2 weeks ago at home at 1 p.m. and that's at 3:30 p.m. I don't know why the MLS doesn't just own Saturdays and Sundays throughout the summer. I get the heat and all of that, but it would be really cool to see a little bit more home games than as opposed to a 7:30 p.m. game at home or a 9 p.m. game on the road.
I agree. I like having more time after, and I don't know. I feel like everyone's just a little bit happier when there's a little more day to live after that match, especially when things have gone relatively positively, like they did a couple weeks ago now with the San Jose. And not that this was bad either. I was curious, Justin. I know we're gonna talk about the game before we get to what are we watching. What was the crowd reaction at full time? I didn't get to listen to it at the very end, so I was curious. Was it excitement? Was it sort of neutral, or was it, upset not getting the 3 points?
It was a mix of both, and I think that Jake, the only reason truly that is because we scored so late in the game. I don't think we would have been raining boos in my opinion if we didn't have scored that such a late goal. But I think it's a mixed emotions, right? I think this is one where it's like, hey, we dug out a point. We should have lost after giving up that late goal, but digging out a point would show some resilience out of these guys.
No, agree. And we'll definitely talk about that a lot more as we get into the recap there. But what are you watching, Justin? I think we're sharing the same boat on this one here today because, again, there's a ton of soccer going on. We are watching Gold Cup as well, which we'll talk about U.S. men's national team in a second. But the Club World Cup, I talked about it a little bit briefly in the preview leading up to the LA Galaxy match. We're underway. I think almost every team has played their first match so far, if not getting close. And the MLS teams have all played. All three of them have played, going a whopping 0-2-1 win-loss draw. Miami collecting the 1 point there. And I think, what did I say on the show, Justin? A draw is equal to a compensation of, I believe it is, hold on, I'll find that now. Oh, a draw is $200,000 to the team for the draw. Unbelievable. This just chump change.
It's chump change, and I feel like this tournament is losing their butts on it. If you didn't watch already, LAFC played in Atlanta today versus Chelsea, maybe 10,000 people tops. And that sounds like a lot if you think about like City Park, that's like half full. No, this is in the Mercedes Dome that holds like 70,000 where the Falcons play, and it looked disgusting. So yeah, pretty upsetting there. But as you mentioned, the MLS has got 0-2-1. Miami's the one with that tie. Not that team needs any more money. With the 0-0 tie to kick off the tournament. Seattle Sounders lost to Brazilian side Botafogo 2-1. And like I said, LAFC just lost to Chelsea 2-0 earlier today. I will say, Jake, if everybody's looking into this, there's a couple kind of big teams and big name teams you want to watch that are facing the MLS. This Thursday, June 19th, Miami plays FC Porto at 4 p.m. and the Sounders play Atletico Madrid at 7 p.m. And then you have the U.S. game also later that night. Monday, June 23rd, Sounders play PSG at 4 p.m. So this is one where it's like, well, if I want to watch this, Justin, where do I go? And I was a little taken back on this too. I went to FIFA.com, looked up the scores and fixtures. You can sign up for DAZN.
DAZN. Yeah.
Wow, that's terrible. I hate that. DAZN. I did the dirty work for you guys. I went out there, went on a limb in today's cyber world and security, put my email in there, didn't know what was going to come back. There's no such thing as like a free trial or anything. It's all free, 100% free. It took me 1 minute to sign up and I was watching the game. So there's no gimmicks that you're going to forget to cancel your free trial or anything like that. So go ahead and sign up and watch some of these games.
No, I agree. I actually just got it too today. I'd been following, offline before that, but yeah, it's an app. Like if you have a smart TV, most of these smart TVs have a DAZN app. I think usually it's from what I've seen, a lot of like pay-per-view type products with boxing matches and whatnot, DAZN covers, but they bought the rights, I think, for $1 billion from FIFA to stream every game for free here. And there are some ads like you'll get. They have a paid tier as well. You don't need it, trust me. But Justin, my overall thing so far is I know that we've lost 2 and drawn 1 as a league so far. I don't think it's been bad. I actually think the games have been decent. Especially today, I did catch a little bit of LAFC Chelsea, and LAFC looks like they belong there. I'm not saying that they were going toe to toe and really pushing Chelsea to the limit, but they belonged there. So did Miami, obviously, coming away with a draw against Egypt's top team and Al Ahly. I do feel for Seattle. Seattle is in the group of death here with Botafogo is a strong team in South America, and then you have to go play Atletico Madrid, who just got waxed by Paris Saint-Germain, I think 4 or 5-0 on match day 1. So they go from Botafogo, the most winnable game, they lost 2-0, to Atletico, to PSG. I mean, that is, oh my word, but so cool that he's sharing the stage with those teams.
I was about to say, I think it's awesome just for these guys to play against these teams like that. Like some of these guys have played U.S. men's national team, and like you look at like Jesus Ferreira and Jordan Morris and guys like that. They've played against these guys, but some of these guys, like you're starting to play against teams that you like grew up watching and kind of idolizing. So I think it's really cool, especially being at Seattle is on both of their games. So Seattle Sounders are hosting Atletico Madrid and PSG. Think about it from a fan base perspective, how cool that is. Imagine if we were hosting Atletico Madrid and PSG, not as friendlies like we're doing in the summer against the EPL team, like actually truly in a competitive standpoint. Yes, some of these teams, since they are out of season, they're not bringing their full squads, but it's still a really cool thing to see.
No, I agree. One thing I am seeing is a theme overall so far is like in a game like Seattle, they're missing Jordan Morris. We're not able to play him against Botafogo. And just when you get one injury, one knock in this team, the depth is just so much further below the teams they're stacking up against, where these rosters are just layered with depth quality players. And that just wraps us so nicely into the Ball Watching STL injury report, brought to you by Schmidtgen's Injury Law Firm. Unlike the boys in the city forever red, an injury off the pitch shouldn't upend your life. The Schmidtgen's Injury Law Firm fights to obtain fair compensation for people like you and me who've been injured in car wrecks, trips, fall cases, and whatnot on the job. If you or anyone you know has ever been injured, or especially recently been injured, make sure you give Rob a call at 314-222-4223 to discuss your case. Mention our name, say, Ball Watching sent me here, and you will get a free consult. And remember, there is no pay unless you win your case. So make sure you give Rob a call at 314-222-4223 or check him out at www.hurtinstl.com. Disclaimer, the choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely on advertisements, just in injuries. We got a new one. I don't know how serious it is. Just given how the game went, and it looked pretty mild on the pitch there. Not sure your reaction there, but Wallum is a new name to pop up on this list. With it sounds like a little bit of a lingering calf issue where he was kind of fighting through it in training last week. They wanted to give him 45 in this match. You saw him enter, basically on the other side of halftime, but get subbed out 20 minutes in after being subbed on. I haven't heard anything additional there, Justin. What was the reaction to seeing Wallum come off after being subbed on? It's such a rare scenario.
I know, it was frustrating because he just missed he was off for the last 2 weeks, essentially, with that red card, not playing in the week prior. So we thought he'd come in very fit, ready to go. I don't know if he went a little bit too hard, a little calf strain. He went down. It was frustrating. I'm like, all right, maybe it's a little hot. Maybe he tried to do too much, got too excited the first 20 minutes, and he was right off. So I really hope that's not something that's extensive, especially because the boys truly have a couple days off right now. Like if you see Celio's story, these guys are out, going back home, going on a little bit of a 4-day trip to get some rest and relaxation as they're truly right in the middle of this season. And I think Wallum should be doing the same thing. Just relax, dude. There's no point to try to get back into this. We don't play Orlando until next Wednesday. So as that injury occurred, he has 11 full days off. This is one that I do not want to drag out, unlike that we've seen for Durkin, who's day-to-day with his MCL. Kessler, hamstring, also day-to-day. Leuven, out again this week, and then with his hamstring. And then Alm, out as well. And then Nilsson out as well. So Alm with the hip, Nilsson with the knee. These are some more serious injuries. I would say from like a calf strain perspective, it's just really, especially this could not have happened at a better time for Wallum, knock on wood. That's something that as long as you're not training and flexing and pushing on every day, shouldn't be that long of a rehab.
It's going to be a tough week to get updates too, Justin, here, because The team, from what I understand, is getting at least today and maybe a couple of days off here, given the break between now and Orlando next Wednesday, which is great. Makes sense to give them some time off where you can enjoy the break, get the bodies healed up. But again, I come back to say we might not have tangible updates soon, but we should be taking this time, prioritizing it. I don't want guys out there doing too much during this break, this really small mini break. I want guys getting wrapped up in cotton wool, in their therapeutic, their Theraguns, getting in the sauna, getting in the ice bath, doing everything and anything they can. Because Justin, I'll just go out on a limb and say this. We're going to talk about the recap again. I struggled to not make this a theme, but I think if you drop a healthy Leuven and Durkin into this team, obviously Kessler, of course, is an immediate upgrade as well. If you can get two of those three into this team, I feel really good about who you can put forth, and then the bench you can call on to make a difference as well, because it looked good. There were definitely some really nice positives to take away from this LA Galaxy match, but you are still missing a couple of just really central figures, obviously centrally, like Kessler, Dirk, and Leuven, like all in the spine. So it really sucks. I keep being reminded every match we watch, but again, you drop them in, I think you would see marked upping in terms of our level of competition.
And the one thing I'll say from that, Jake, is one, again, to your point, I was kind of smirking when you said that because I was looking at this time off. No Deshaun Watson videos where the guy was like doing a TikTok dance and like re-tore his Achilles. So like nothing of that. We're not doing any of these things. Just actually chill, fellas. And then actually, once you get these guys in, like you actually said, once you get Leuven in and Kessler and Durkin, it's actually taking less time it's taking time away from the other guys, which puts less strain on them, which I think then just builds a healthier team. So That's one that I do. It's been a tough injury front, but Jake, our Hoffman brothers starting 11 was still relatively solid. I mean, obviously, when we're looking at the back line, we're going Berkey in the back, Reed, Baumgartel, Hebert, Totland. You would much rather see a Kessler or a Nilsson playing instead of Hebert, but with what we had, I would say the only kind of surprise to me was that Horn was on the bench in what could be likely one of his last few games with the team. And I kind of thought he would get a starting 11 and did not happen there. But in front of them, Morales and Watts, that is not a duo I like to see. And then Celio, Hartel, Betcher, and Klauss for the second time in a row up top. What were your thoughts on the Hoffman brothers presenting starting 11?
Yeah, I think Jay Reed doesn't surprise me. I was thinking maybe Wallen might come back in, but I thought he would maybe go to midfield. I didn't know about the calf issue they're managing all week. But Baumgartel, Hebert, with Kessler's injury, still lingering, I thought that made the most sense. My, how far Yarrow has fallen down this chart. I mean, from starting, every game essentially to hasn't gotten, I think, a minute since Critchley took over. And this was Hebert's first start as well. So it's not like it's been just Hebert, no Yarrow. Totland, good to see him come back for a good start here. I've actually been liking what I've seen from Morales. Not a huge fan of, again, the Watts central midfield experiment. I would, if anything, Justin, what it does tell me is that Ostrak is not a plan, not a guy they're planning on whatsoever, which is a real shame to me because I do like some of what he brings, but he's another guy that I think maybe has gotten a couple minutes since Critchley took over, but is clearly not a priority. They've brought in Wallem, they brought in JGR ahead of him in this match. So I would have liked to maybe see Ostrak there, but otherwise, I think this is what it is. Toy Shirt, they want to be a little bit careful with. Betcher's offering a lot, just not scoring at the moment. But Celio's doing something. Hartel, I'll talk about his performance, but I think for the most part, this was not that shocking. And Hoffman brothers, we didn't talk about it. Obviously, there is no starting or best 11 for the Hoffman brothers. Whoever they send your way to help you, whoever you call on the phone, they're there to deliver. They got the most quality pieces in that organization. I've talked to obviously many different people for all my appointments and things that I've scheduled in my home protection plan, but I've also had 2 or 3 different technicians out to the home, and all of them have been absolutely phenomenal. So the service experience, it's all 100% with Hoffman brothers. There is no injuries. The next person off the bench, the next person in the truck is going to be the person to deliver those goods. So make sure you give Hoffman brothers a call if you have any services you need under the roof at 314-664-3011 or visit online at hoffmanbros.com.
And Jake, I'm going to double down on that. If you don't even know if you need services, call Hoffman Brothers at 314-664-3011 because they're going to be the ones that come out and tell you. They're not going to be like that when you take your car to Dobbs and they come out and they're like, "Oh, have you ever seen the new tires episode?" They're trying to upsell you like, "Oh yeah, you need new tires, but you also need new brakes, your windshield wiper fluid." It's like, no. Like The Hoffman brothers are going to tell you what you need and truly what you need, and that's it. It's white glove service. So give them a call or go to hoffmanbros.com. So, Jake, with that starting 11, it was a pretty shaky start, even with them. And I think, obviously, you could see that when we talk about this back line. I'm going to go ahead and say, Jake, that this back line has never started that back line together on a game so far ever.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to mention, as you brought this up, I did a little math. Ostraka has had 2 minutes in the 3 games under Critchley. That was 2 minutes at Portland, and Yarrow has had 0 minutes. So when you talk about Reed, Baumgartel, Hebert, and Totland, the chemistry is not there, and it starts early. 2 early opportunities for Peck going down the right. Our left in the first 2 minutes, the defending is just shaky. And I would say, Jake, in the beginning of this, between Reed and Celio stepping up while Reed staying home, they have a little bit more chemistry there. But all of this in this game, it felt very open in the first 15 minutes. We were going down their throat. They were going down ours. Not a lot of midfield play. And producer Lou is like, you know what's hilarious? This game should call for like 3 or 4 goals, but these teams suck. So it's probably going to end in like a 2-1 dub. And that's what we were talking about the entirety of the beginning of the game.
I tweeted that out. I mean, because I was able to really watch the first half diligently. And I think probably 15 minutes in, I'm like, I have no idea how it's 0-0 in this match still. And it didn't last long. But I know I agree. You could tell that LA's game plan, at least from the beginning, and it continued, was to target our left-hand side. And whether that's because they're not thinking Steelers going to contribute too much on that end of the pitch defensively, or if they think Reed might get a little expansive and get a little more forward, it was definitely an area. Again, a guy like Gabriel Peck is going to make it hard for whoever is on that side, but they were targeting that, sending a lot of play down that side of the field for us, and we were struggling when to stay at home, when to be more aggressive, and they had, I think, a shot on target down there in the first minute. And another a couple minutes later, and maybe a couple more in the first 15. So very nervy beginning for me when I think defensively. But we also, had our own chances as well. I mean, Betcher, hard to look past the chance that he just flubbed so early on in those first 5 minutes. My thing I want to talk about with Betcher is, again, I love the guy. I love that we signed him. I'm sure we got him at a great deal too. And obviously, Slew Bill, he could do anything, and I would still support him. And I'm still very supportive of him. And I still think that, by the way, he is right now a better option to me than Toyshirt is, because Betcher gives more to me right now than Toyshirt in open play. And he's finding great positions. And he's getting his nose into places where he may not belong, and really making it hard for defenses to handle. But when it gets to that critical moment, that final pass, that final touch to tee yourself up for the shot, or the shot itself, that's where he's just failing. And that's where he was excelling last year towards the end of the year in 2024. So I think maybe it's something mental, Justin, or something with confidence, because you've seen it. He has it, the ability to be lethal, but right now he's anything but. And it's killing a lot of fans, right? Like, they're losing hope, and I'm sure that's killing him as well inside. I know he'll turn it around, but it's frustrating to watch.
It is. I will say that I'll jump straight to it, though. The celebration of him and Klauss drinking coffee, I found out that those two always go and drink coffee together. You guys in front of us that were sitting with us said they saw them drinking coffee at Comet just the other day. But yes, to this point, the reason that I brought that up is I think that the chemistry there is still there. So I think that if Betcher sees Klauss doing well, Klauss is going to pick him up, and those guys are going to pick each other up. So I don't think we're far off from what we saw. But I will say he did miss the chance in the 7th minute. And I wouldn't even say missed. Incredible. One of the best balls I've seen out of Hartel, outside of the foot curler, sliding Betcher in. Betcher does well to get it on target, and a great save. It was a bang play, so I don't expect Betcher to score that one, but he did have quote unquote two big chances missed with an XG of 1.11. So Jake, I was like, what is going on? Because I agree with you. We're starting to see a little bit of a trend, and it's probably because we were a little spoiled. In 2024, he had 4 goals with just 7 shots on target and an XG of just 1.58. So he's finished more than 50% of his shots on target and out projected his XG by 2.5. Now in 2025, flip side, 1 goal with 12 shots on target, and he's played 2 more full 90s than he did in last season. He's an XG of 4.61, which is second on City behind Klauss with a 4.65. So he is underperforming his XG this year by 3.6. It's kind of nutty. And when you look at this now, so that's a total of what? 6.2 on an XG, and he has 5 goals. So now what he gained last year, he has reduced this year, and we're kind of water's finding its level.
Yeah, I like that analysis, and I'm hoping that the water finds its level, and we end up somewhere in the middle there where he's not way outperforming or way underperforming, but you kind of come right back to the middle there where, you do finish some of these big chances because, again, it's frustrating right now. And you need him in those positions because, again, he gets himself like that's part of the work, right? Honestly, that's the biggest part to me of like the fraction of scoring a goal is finding the right position, getting yourself there, getting yourself prepared to take that final action and be lethal with it. And then the final part of that pie is, finishing. And he's doing the hard work, to find himself, to body defenders off, to be a nuisance in front of net, but just can't seem to find the twine right now. I'm really hoping he turns it around. I think, again, our offense will really benefit from that as well. And I think Klauss, that's a good point, the Klauss Betcher thing too. The celebration was fun. And that with Klauss upping his confidence, he's a team player too. Like he works his ass off, all match for this team. He's going to make sure that Betcher is taken under his wing. He might be a guy to really almost set Betcher up one and just give him one, see it hit the back of the net. Like you see that almost mentor-mentee like relationship with them. And I love it, by the way. So I'm really hoping that Klauss can be part of the solution here as well.
Sorry, I was trying to pull up in the pick that we got from our man on these goals. So this goal by Klauss, the celebration is at the end for anybody that didn't scroll all the way through. You can see him sitting, drinking. Hartel, I think, thought they were sucking on his thumb. Hartel is like, I was just trying to do what Simon and Joao were doing, and he had no clue what was going on. But it was truly, Joao said that he was in the post-match interview. He said that him and Simon had been talking for a long time. They wanted to bring the celebration out because they always go out and get coffee and not just talk about soccer, but talk about life. And that's where I think that friendship is going to start to have that connection, like we saw with Joao and Nico Gioacchini. I would like to see something out of that with those boys.
Yeah, I would too. You know what I also like to see, Justin, is good as it is that we're getting better on the ball. We're definitely taking more of an emphasis and more pride in possession and what we do with the ball, not just against the ball. I do want to also caution, I've seen a lot of social media recently around Critchley coming out and talking about one of the metrics that he really wants to define the team is improving our field tilt. And for anyone who doesn't know what field tilt is, it really is what it says it is. I mean, it's what proportion of the time are you spending on the ball possessing in the opponent's half? So that there's like possession that we talk about, 50-50, 40-60, whatever. And there's field tilt, which is possession, but in each other's halves, which is really meaningful. I mean, it drives a lot for teams and it's a big, data point. But I also want to caution that just because that proportion is getting better for us, which is good, ultimately good. You want to have the ball in the opponent's half more than you have in yours. I also want to say that I don't look at our team yet and say that we're doing a lot with that possession. We might be finding ourselves in LA's half. They also might be letting that happen sometimes, which I could tell at times because LA, for better or for worse, they're a smart team. They're coached by a good coach in Greg Vanney, and they know that we struggle to break down teams that are settled, in a block of some sort. We really print money off of transitions right now. Like that's a big direct component of our attack. And if you don't give us those and you force us to break you down, we're going to struggle more. And you saw our 3 goals. None of them were just from like brand, open play, just from knocking the ball around in possession. One of LA's were. There was 2 of theirs were off transition as well. But I do want to caution that is like just because field tilt's getting better for this team, which ultimately is a good sign, it's a good indicator, does not mean that we've solved this. We're going to now poke and prod and find our way to just take a lot of pride in the ball and really generate chances and goal threat off of just possession. There's levels to this. So I'm happy, but I'm not satisfied yet.
Yeah, I would say that I was going to try to pull up something funny and do a little bat signal. And we need to reach out to Mike about this because I was Mike from Chat City Tactics. If you don't follow him, guys, go to Twitter and follow him. He does some deep dives into the games and has some incredible insight from the stats of all of it. And I would like to know how many backward passes we had in this last game, because Jake, in my opinion, we're moving the ball up and I see us get into the opposition's half, like you said, but when they apply a little bit pressure, somehow it always ends up back with Roman Berkey and then a long ball, which sometimes works out because you have Klauss up top or you got Simon Betcher fighting for position, things like that. But it just doesn't seem like once we get it there, we have a whole lot of knowing of what to do. And I will honestly say, Jake, I don't know if it's a chemistry thing or whatnot, but I do not think that the guys have faith in passing the ball into like a Morales or a Watts holding it there. And that's why Hartel dropped so deep. I would feel more comfortable if Leuven was sitting there. I don't even know if I would want Durkin on the ball there, but Durkin be holding back. And that's where Leuven and Hartel can do a little exchange and get in, get out. But right now, when we get it into their half, we're circulating it back. And the amount of long balls that Berkey had I'll look that up right now because I just think it was absurd. And I don't think that that's something that should be actually happening for us. He had 14 total long balls. And I just don't think that as a sweeper keeper, we need to be lumping the ball 14 times. But it's what happens when our defense gets pressed and they drop it back to him and he hits a one-timer long.
And let's put some analytics to this. I mean, outside of our 2 goals, and other set pieces, so our 2 goals and set pieces. So we had one of our goals was off a fast break. One I called off a set piece. It was from a Berkey deep free kick that he just served up, but that's where Baumgartel won the header and Klauss scored that 3rd goal. Again, we'll break down the goals here, but outside of the 2 goals that we scored in the second half and the other set pieces we had, we generated 0.09 expected goals. And that plays right into LA's hands. Again, they're making that life for us. They're sitting back once we get into their half and they're saying, try to beat us now. And that's where we struggle. And I agree with you. I don't think we have the ball players and in the central midfield part, especially, that are comfortable on the turn, on the one-touch passing, super crisp, confident. That to me, again, that's why I kind of go back to the Ostrak. I think that's a guy you maybe want to try to throw in as a lock picker. JGR is not that profile. I don't know if Wallam's that profile either. So it just makes it interesting that he sits on the bench for that time. But I agree. I think it's a limitation we have. And until you get a guy like Leuven back, I don't see it changing that much either. Like maybe we will just really focus a lot on transitions.
I do think that Wallam could be a lock picker there because that guy is very good in tight situations. I would actually rather him play more centrally than on the wing, but I'm going to bring it up real quick, Jake, because we've already kind of touched on it, and then we can hop straight into our transition defense and straight to the goals. But one thing that stood out to me was the 27th minute. The ball is circulating around the back. It ultimately comes back from the left back to Berkey, and for some reason, Watts is dropping all the way to be 10 yards outside of the 18 to receive this pass, while Kyle Hebert is on the 18. And there's no one within 30 yards of these guys. So I would love to know, like, are they just purposely saying, Kyle, we're not going to let you carry the ball up the field, whatnot? I do think Watts usually takes space pretty well. He was able to jog this one up, almost gets to half field. And for some reason, Jake, another issue that I've seen in this game and now seeing more reoccurringly as well on counterattacks is that we try to play square balls. He tried to play a cut square ball to Morales, which gets easily cut out by Royce in a quick counterattack. I just don't think that we ever need to be playing those square balls in that sense, because to your point in here, you say we do our best when we play a quick one-time pass into forwards' feet. Otherwise, LA Galaxy sits off our midfielders and no one carries an active threat outside of that. So if we're trying to dribble it up and then just try to play a square ball, that leaves our rest defense in a terrible, terrible position in a perfect counterattack for an LA Galaxy team that should be putting these away, except for that one. I don't think we're going to talk about it. Yeah. Pansil getting absolutely just, 30 yards of space on a breakaway. Yeah. It reminded me of when the MLS used to do PKs and you dribble like that. Yeah. That's how much time and space this man had, and just absolutely overhit the pass. It was fantastic.
Yeah, no, I mean, you've hit it. I mean, as much as we were good on transition on the day, so were the Galaxy. And we shot ourselves in the foot, frankly, more than twice. We shot ourselves in the foot twice for 2 goals. More than that, we should have paid dearly a couple of other times as well. But let's talk about rest transition defense, Justin. Then we'll talk about the goals and layer in like how those apply. But we talked about rest defense a little bit with David Goss when he was on the show, and we talked a little bit last year. Haven't really dug that deep into it. But again, for anyone that's newer to the term, it's where your positioning is when you guys have the ball. Think about defenders. Where is Timo Baumgartel when Morales has the ball or Celio's dribbling at a defender 1v1? Where does he know to be? Because if you're Timo Baumgartel, you're not just stagnant. You're moving around. Are you tracking anyone? Are you tracking a certain space? Are you looking at anyone? When that ball turns over, where are you? That's rest defense, because where you are will really determine the outcome if it's going to be a quick transition after that. And we fell short, frankly, twice. In that. So we'll talk about the goals and we'll, bring that up as we get there. But definitely, if I'm David Critchley, an area for improvement for us, because it's not easy, right? Like it's very fluid. The ball's always moving around and you're getting teased out of position. Certain players are really smart and they got high soccer IQs and they will physically move you around the pitch and mentally, get into the brain. So it's important for us because we can see how leaky we are from that point of view right now. And you've just got to be on it. Is that Berkey, Justin? Is that him, staying in their heads? Like, stay clicked and stay on. You cannot turn off for a moment because LA has enough speed and enough quality to manufacture goals out of those moments. And they did twice, obviously. So, I mean, any thoughts on that, Justin, before you break down the goals?
I think Berkey can help with where a positioning aspect of it is. but also he can only do so much. And that's you'll see that in the goals, is that he can't have these guys when they're that wide. He can tell them to get closer, but if they're not going to do it, he can only do so much from back there. There was another one I just want to call out because it wasn't related to the goals. 55th minute, it was a transition. They're going back at us. We had a ball watching situation here, Jake, where we literally had it was a free, if you do like whoop, freeze frame, Baumgartel and Hebert were both tracking back the same runner. And it's like right when they hit the 18, they both like stopped and stepped towards the guy taking the ball on. Watts was also coming to get the ball. So we had three guys watching the ball as Marco Royce, if anybody's heard the name, is sitting at the top of the 18, top of the D, 23 yards out with no one in between him and Berkey. He receives the ball. Totland has to slide in. Royce correctly plays the ball wide. Totland has to make a sliding block so that Berkey doesn't have to make a save. And it's just one of those that I think could have been completely cut out if Morales and Watts were looking where Royce was, not looking where the ball was. And that's a part of rest defense. If you're going into this game, you need somebody be in Marco Royce's pocket to make sure that he doesn't end up with the 2 assists that he had in this game. And that's ultimately what led to our downfall.
Yeah, I agree. Let's talk about the goals here, Justin, because there were some highlights, and we'll talk about the lowlights with all these goals. Obviously, there were 6 of them in this match. I know we predicted goals, but maybe not this many. We got on the board first, shockingly. I don't know how, but we did. And it came after a John Nelson clearance. Johnny, now an MLS Cup champion, but languishing with the Galaxy so far this season, but he's playing a lot of meaningful minutes with them, so I think he would take that move. But Johnny Nelson clears the ball. Celio, out of the air, plays, I believe, a one-time pass in to Klauss, who does a little 1-2 with Hartel. That Hartel, the 1-2 part of that, Hartel plays a perfectly weighted little through ball to Klauss, who gets in tight with the goalkeeper, keeps the pace on the shot, gets it low, right between the wickets, and we're up 1-0. I think the things that make this goal for me, Justin, were the 34th minute. I think it's a couple of things. Klauss playing that ball one time to Hartel. Doesn't sit on it, doesn't take a touch or put a shoulder into his defender, plays it one time, knows where he wants to go. And second, it's Hartel taking a touch, letting the play develop in front of him, not just freaking out that we're this far ahead now and inside the 18-yard box, but waiting for Klauss to make that run, to get in front of his defender, and to let this play develop. Sometimes you got to do that. Think about the NFL, right, Justin? Like, you might have a great play call, but if the quarterback doesn't let that route get run like Hartel does here, nothing's going to come of that. But I think he does a perfect job QBing this play, and Klauss has a great finish.
Look at you, Jake, bringing in some other sports we haven't heard from in a while. I'm going to talk about LA Galaxy's first goal real quick, Jake, and this is another one where we're seeing some issues. And I'm going to share screens on this one. Where we're seeing issues on tracking runners, and I think it's coming from ball watching or either rest defense or a mix of both. So as you see, if anybody's watching this on YouTube, right here, pause it, freeze frame, right back has the ball. Right here's our holding defensive mids. I believe this is Marco Royce making this run right here. Neither of them are tracking him. Here's Akil Watts. I don't know where you're at, big boy, because your man is running right down the middle into our center backs, untouched. Look at this. 15 yards of space right around him. Guess where the ball gets played? Him. He dummies it, and he gets a run in. He could have easily slotted it back right there, which he does, and then a put-away finish. And that's solely because of a man running out of the midfield is not tracked. And it's not on Timo Baumgartel. It's not on Kyle Hebert. That's a guy that needs to be tracked with the runner as they're already trying to handle the attackers up top.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think all of that is valid. If any of the goals that LA scored, Justin, I got to give them credit on this one. That dummy from Marco Royce was exquisite. The flick over the top from Nascimento back to Royce was lovely. And the cutback, obviously wrong foot's Totland as he kind of overcommits to that challenge. And then, Peck probably scores the easiest goal of his life there. And he would be back on the board here soon. We'll talk about it. But hey, the boys aren't going away. They get equalized on, obviously, 6 minutes after their goal in the 34th minute. And then halftime comes and goes. And then the 47th minute, we're back on top, courtesy of Celio, again, jumping onto a loose, cheaply given away ball from the Galaxy. And our own defensive third, he plays a perfectly weighted, lofted through ball into Klauss, who noticed the situation and just took off, just went north on a vertical and takes a little bit of a poor first touch, kind of away from goal, cuts off some of his own angle, and realizes, I think, the best opportunity he has to stick in this one in is just going through the laces into the upper netting, and he roofs it. Obviously, I'm sure Energizer Park was going nuts, but the thing that I thought made this goal as I was watching it back here, Justin, was Hartel again didn't touch the ball here, but he was on the man that missed the ball that was loosely played, and he kind of threw a little bit of a shoulder into him. And it's so subtle, but if you go back and watch the highlights, he did enough to kind of put that guy off a little bit so Celio could have a good go at this ball and had the vision to play that pass first time. And I think that makes it for us. Obviously, the Klauss finish, exquisite. This is what we've been clamoring for. The Klauss haters having a tough day with the brace here.
I love that goal, but Jake, the thing that was frustrating to me is that we just can't hold a lead. If you look into this game, the entire game, we had the lead for 6 minutes before they scored, and then when we scored again, we held the lead for another 4 minutes. We had the lead for 10 total minutes in this game, and out of the entire game, the game was only not tied for 17 total minutes, which is absolutely insane from a 3-3 game. But Jake, here we go. We're going to share screens again. This is where we come in for the rest defense. This second goal by LA Galaxy was extremely frustrating to me. It's a pause freeze frame right here. With the highlights on YouTube, we're not allowed to share the Apple ones. But so the first frustrating part of this, Jake, was the ball from Jay Reed to Kyle Hebert here. That's another square pass, slightly backwards, across 30 yards of space where LA Galaxy's already pressing. Kyle has to do like an awkward shield the ball turn, and this is where he's at right here. Now let's let him play it wide to Totland here. Now watch. Right when Totland gets the ball here, not a great touch. I think he was in between doing a one-time pass down the sideline to Hartel or a one-time into Klauss. However, that's fine. But look how spaced we are. Jay Reed is still 10 yards from the other touchline as Totland gets the ball on the opposite touchline here. We should never be that spaced when we're even possession or not. Jay Reed needs to be sliding over. Kyle Hebert's coming to give cover. Baumgartel is still almost even with the other side of the 18 as well. Those guys are at least 40 yards apart. And guess who's floating right in between them again? Mr. Marco Royce. And so as Totland takes this bad touch, they win the ball right here. Watts, you either need to go or get back. You can't get caught in no man's land, which he does here. One-time ball in. Watts is already beat. They played into Royce. Baumgartel's trying to give cover here. He's too late. Jay Reed, frustrating me here, Jake. Last thing, if we back this up just a little bit, Jay Reed is jogging. Jog, 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 jog. Yeah. And guess when he decides to sprint? When it's too late. Too late. Marco Royce flicks it in, one-time finish, and the boys are just caught out of position. So in my opinion, this one, Jake, falls a little bit on Jay Reed with that first pass. You don't need me playing that pass from your left back to almost a square ball to a center back. Then Totland obviously needs to have a better touch there. Watts, you either need to go and win the ball or the man and then the play, or you need to drop straight back. Baumgartel needs to slide over quicker. Jay Reed needs to recognize that there's no but attacker, and he needs to fill that space that Baumgartel left.
They're going to take a real good hard look at this goal, I think. Even though it does, the chain does begin with an individual mistake, I think there's a lot you can learn from this. Again, those center backs, Justin, Baumgartel, 40 yards from Hebert in that moment, the ball that turns over. That is the definition of rest defense and trying to shore up things like that. I also say, again, Royce, I'll give you your flowers, bro. That flick between Baumgartel's wickets was nasty. Of course, he's feeling himself, in this match. He really clicks in. And I'm sure the Energizer Park vibes were low there because then another basically 40 minutes go by as, now we're on the ropes here. LA's mounting pressure. We're not generating too much. And they get the go ahead in the 87th minute. Another lapse. And it's younger guys, Justin. So I want to be a little bit cognizant of that. But Zielinski gets a tough ball, I think, from Hartel here. But again, the context is really important because in this 87th minute, we have just had Joey Zielinski come up and do a long throw about 45 seconds before this. The service doesn't come off, it gets cleared. We didn't reset, though. Baumgartel's still up in the forward line, sitting next to Klauss, having a cup of coffee. And we've got Joey Zielinski and Jay Reed as like the only men back at this point. I don't know what you're going to do with that anyway. I think if you're Zielinski, honestly, dude, hoof this ball into the stands. They've got numbers forward. Everyone's super tight. He tries to play Reed. Reed slips. And then it's really a story from there. Pex takes it in one-on-one, beats Berkey, and they slot it in. What do you want to say about this one, Justin? I think it's a combination of, again, just awareness and also just some young mistakes and some unfortunate, things with a slip like that. You don't want to see that happen, but again, it's preventable. You've got to know when to reset, when to just play safe sometimes.
Jake, I'm going to call this one straight up lazy. Let's remember what the score is right now. It's 2-2 at home in the 87th minute. Why? I understand a long throw, sending the boys forward, 100%. Now, the time period from when that ball, he threw it, it was cleared, and when we had it back in our feet and we were playing the ball back to Kyle Hebert, 13 seconds from when Kyle Hebert got the ball to when Zielinski makes his pass elapsed. Now look, Akil Watts, he's literally the deepest guy for our team right now. So is Baumgartel all the way up here. At that point, 13 seconds go by. If that ball's not immediately whipped back in the first 5 seconds, you need to be getting back. Yeah. And so look at this freeze frame right here for everybody that's watching on YouTube. Where do you want Zelensky to go with this ball?
Yeah.
I agree. Like, if anything, I guess it's a little bit safer to try to play it to Hartel. It's not safe to try to play it to Morales right here. That was a good call not to. It's definitely not safe to try to play it to Jay Reed, which he does either, but he's kind of handcuffed right here because the lack of rest defense. And it's not like we're down, we're pushing for a goal. We are tied in this game. We're looking for a point. And then this goes right here. And this is just, I mean, if you're Jay Reed, I understand you're trying to run a little bit more. You're trying to get this, but also that just needs to be hoofed. If you think that you're any second of danger, needs to just put it long. Don't try to spin out of it. And unfortunately, he falls on the grass and easy 1-on-1 with Roman Berkey. But it's just frustrating to see that they have another breakaway. That's the second one in the game where Roman has to try to stand on his head. And Roman actually makes a good play here. I thought he was getting this freeze frame. I thought he was making a kick save, keeping this in it again. It's just too check. There's nothing else he could do in that sense. And I'm frustrated where these guys are ending up, and that's a lack of rest defense and also playing a square ball and or backwards ball 30 yards to a center back, or where someone should be playing center back.
I'm with you. And then the final goal, I don't think anyone was expecting because of the nature in which it came. But in the 90+4, Klauss completes the club's first ever hat trick. And it's courtesy of a double assist from Roman Berkey, who I believe that was his first ever career assist. And kills this ball, puts it up way up in the air. It's hit driven centrally. Baumgartel is really the only one that I think really truthfully wants to get up and win this for some reason at the top of the 18. Flicks it onto Klauss. The flick goes a little bit wider than I think Klauss or the team would have wanted. So Klauss, again, is limited in what he can do here. Can't take a touch. It's got to take this first time. And instead of roofing it near post, he decides to put it upper bends, top 90. Wow. Top bends, upper 90 of the far left corner. I mean, Justin, I'll just go out and say it. This was a 0.02 expected goal chance for Klauss. And I think, in my personal opinion, in terms of just the strike, this is my favorite goal I've ever seen from this team.
Oh, it was an absolute snipe by him. And usually, I mean, if he missed that one, it's like, all right, why didn't you go ahead and why didn't you try to place this one? But Jake, I'm just happy to see this one hit the back of the net. That was absolutely incredible from him. And I'm so happy that he actually got this first ever hat trick. I was trying to pull it up. I guess we'll probably share it on Instagram. Another picture that we got during that game of him actually on the half volley. It's absolutely beautiful. That for anybody that hasn't already seen some other pictures of this, but screw it. I'm going to pull it up and share it right now for us, Jake. Jake, otherwise, what else do we want to talk about in this game? Do you want to talk about from a stats perspective, or where are we going?
Yeah, I'll highlight a couple things. We'll talk stats, and I just want to say this is a mixed bag still, right? Like, we're still early on in the Critchley era here, and it's a mix of old and new at this point. I think from the old side, things that we've seen before, we're conceding leads way too easily and way too quickly. We're dropping back. We're definitely lessening the press when we do get on that ball, almost like we know we get a little scared and we don't want to concede, so we basically end up conceding because we get scared because you don't go for the kill. Late goals, just big chances being missed, and individual lapses that you can't predict, but you've got to start to limit here because they're killing us. On the new side, simplification of roles. I think Hartel cited in the press conference, I think he likes where he's being deployed now. He has a little bit less defensive responsibility, can kind of free float around and find the game. Obviously, it pays off in the stats column for him in this match. Confidence, Klauss is beaming with it right now. The team is beaming with it. When you have a striker, DP number 9, scoring 3 goals in this match, never done that before at this club. That's all you want for him, is to feel high on goals. And this man is, again, oozing it right now. We're outperforming our XG in this match, which is great. And these last 2 matches, Justin, are the most expected goals we've generated this season. So we're definitely fixing or correcting the chance creation side, which is great. And there are definitely some things that are left in that wake as we're committing more numbers forward that we need to fix and show up defensively. But I'm happy with some of these new things. They're positive elements. At least it's different. But statistically, our 2 favorite things to talk about this year, Justin, are winning positions and losing positions. And we've got new news here as we drop another 2 points from a winning position now, dropping 18 points from 18 games played. But as bad as that is, we have now collected 1 point from a losing position. Justin, were you just elated?
Yeah, that's why I texted you. I'm like, hey, we just got our first point from a losing position. You're like, yeah, but we also added 2 more points that we dropped from a winning position. I'm like, you know what? That's a net negative, but it's a positive stat for me. I'll take it. It shows that this team can actually come back and do something when going down. And I haven't seen that. We haven't seen that resiliency. Usually we get scored on late and it's just absolutely deflating. It was deflating. That Energizer Park was just dead for a second. But good God, that roar on that Klauss hat trick that could have been heard from Washmo. That thing was insane.
Yeah, it looked. I mean, the limbs in the air on the photos and videos. Keep an eye, everyone, on social media. We'll be having some more stuff come out here from our resident photographer, videographer, Connor Gunn. Make sure you check out his stuff. But yeah, it positive. I think net positive. You showed some resilience, a new thing that we haven't shown yet this season. So I'll take the licks, right? As long as there's things you can hang your hat on, which we couldn't say about the Olaf era and the Olaf reign. You're seeing things now that are new and that are trying something and that are, positive. Like 3 goals. I'll freaking take that, man. Like, I don't care if it's against the Galaxy. Like, I'll take 3 goals. Like, it just makes me happy, especially at home.
I want everybody, that's what we need to also take back and look at is, I get we tied the worst team in the West, the worst team in the MLS, the worst team to ever have a start, but you got to get points on games where you need to get points. And I think this is one we absolutely should have won. I'm not saying that I'm happy with a tie, but it's better than losing the teams that you got to beat the teams you should beat. We didn't do it. We got the tie. All right. It's like kissing your sister, but at least we're getting points. At this point, this is something that we really just need to try to get some momentum on. And it's not a 0-0 draw. We're like, oh, we didn't create anything. No, we created chances. We had a couple mental laps and small mistakes that cost us big, but positive in my opinion.
And now you've got time. Again, no match for us this weekend, no midweek match. Our next match will be at home, once again at Energizer Park, on next Wednesday against Orlando as they continue to play out the rest of this Club World Cup group stage. But in the meantime, Justin, we promise we talk about it. We'll at least keep it brief here and make some commentary on the U.S. men's national team, who I think have found themselves in a little bit of a similar predicament, right? With the coach not being maybe everything they thought, they would be. And I talked about it. I know you talked about it last week as well. They've now just played their first Gold Cup game yesterday and just waxed Trinidad and Tobago, which kind of always feels good now because of what they did to us for the 2018 World Cup. But they are nothing to write home about. But I also can't look past it entirely either because there are some bright individual performances here and guys that, again, you're not used to seeing because this Gold Cup is meh as it is as a tournament. I'm excited to see hopefully some breakout players that are going to etch their names onto this roster or just give Pochettino a lot to think about. Guys like I was really enthused about last night were Diego Luna. I mean, he's not a secret anymore. He is a baller and he plays like it's the last game he'll ever play. And I love that the most about him. 2 assists last night, should have had a goal, playing at left wing for the U.S. Malik Tillman had a season to remember for PSV. Hasn't seen that translate to the U.S. men's national team yet, but had 2 goals last night, 4 chances created. Max Arston, Justin, I don't know if you've seen him, but Columbus's left back, kind of a hybrid left back, wing back role for the U.S. men's national team. And similar for Columbus, I like his game. He's really expansive and he can be left open for sure. But he had also 2 assists last night. Anyone stick out to you, Justin, in this lineup or in the match that, gives you something to be happy about or, again, hang your hat on for the U.S. men's national team?
I honestly do. I would love seeing Luna on the ball with this team. I think this is a team where you don't see a lot of big names and one that we obviously didn't expect for this Gold Cup, but it's a chance to show some guys that are truly on the fringe. I think we obviously have a starting 11 that we feel very strong about, and a couple guys that can rotate in there, but who wants to be these fold guys? This is truly the last chance. And I'm sure Poach is talking about this. Our last meaningful games. You want to be on the World Cup team hosting it in your country. You need to be showing me right now during the World Cup. And I think that's what these guys did. It was a little bit off in these 2 friendlies. Obviously, we weren't even playing our true starting 11 in those 2 friendlies for what we're doing for the Gold Cup. But I think this is one, like we said, you got to beat the teams you got to beat. And we beat Trinidad and Tobago. Like you said, we're not writing home about it. We're currently ranked 16th in the FIFA World Rankings. Trinidad's ranked 100th. However, I'm just happy to see us take care of this and set us up pretty nice going into the next game as well. So right now, we just beat them 5-0. The other teams in our group are Saudi Arabia, who's ranked 58th in the world, and Haiti, who's ranked 83rd in the world. And Saudi Arabia just beat Haiti 1-0, and we will be ending up now playing Saudi Arabia on Thursday at 8:15 Central Time in Austin, Texas on FS1. So, I mean, Jake, if you look at that, we win that game. We're going through, and we pretty much win the group. So I think if we win, we'd absolutely win the group, unless, well, I guess there's a chance, but with our goal differential of +5 already,
no one's doing
the group. And then Jake, what are we looking forward to if we win the group?
Yeah, if you win the group here, so we're in Group D. If you win the group, you'll play the second team that's qualifying out of Group A. Or if you're second in our group, somehow the wheels just come off. God, I don't want to even talk about it. We would play first in Group A. In Group A, there is Mexico, Costa Rica, Suriname, and the Dominican Republic. You obviously want to avoid Mexico. I think they'll get there. They had a little bit of a weird kind of edgy game against the Dominican Republic and got by them, I think, 3-2. Costa Rica, you probably don't want to meet there either, but I would definitely take Costa Rica over Mexico, because if we both qualify first out of our group, Mexico and the USA, we go separate into the other sides of the brackets. We will not see them again at the very earliest until the final. So I think that's probably your biggest or most likely path, because Mexico comes in as the favorites to win this tournament. So you'd like to see that be our path. And depending on where they finish, we have a 50% chance as the U.S. men's national team to come to Energizer Park to play in a semifinal, which is sick, in my opinion. I mean, the next stage is the quarterfinals. Like, there's only a set amount of teams here. So if we win the group and we win our next game after that, we're going to be potentially a 50% chance at Energizer Park on Wednesday, July 2nd, which would be killer. This group, this fan base, St. Louis would show out for that match.
Jake, I don't want to jinx it, but there's a chance that it would be the USA versus Mexico at Energizer Park on July 2nd.
There's a chance, yeah.
There's a chance if we win the group and Mexico gets second in their group, which obviously they already won. They're playing Costa Rica. So their group, let's also talk about their group, because they've already, so them and Costa Rica both won their games. Mexico's ranked 17th, Costa Rica 54th. And what is, you say, Suriname,
I think, yeah.
Suriname, 137th in the world, and the Dominican Republic, 139th. Like, those poor countries didn't stand a chance of getting first or second. But I would like for Mexico to win their group, us to win their group. We could end up playing them in the final. But that would mean that the U.S. could host Costa Rica at Energizer Park. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Even if something does go wrong, a U.S.-Mexico in St. Louis, I'm going to be out of town this week. This is like borderline flying home early from vacation vibes. So, I mean, that would be a dream. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, we're going to be keeping a close eye on this. Thursday, by the way, Justin, you already hit it with the Club World Cup commentary as well. Thursday, between Inter Miami, Porto at 2 o'clock Central Time, Seattle, Atletico at 5 o'clock Central Time, and then the U.S. versus Saudi Arabia, like not the most exciting thing in the world, but still a game at 8:15. You've got your Thursday booked, baby. I mean, that is 3 matches that I'll probably be tuning into at least like half of all of that. Definitely all the U.S. game for sure, but that's a fun Thursday.
I 100% just realized that was in military time, and I read it earlier as 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. Thank you for correcting me. Those games are at 2 and 5, and then the U.S. game. So
yeah,
numbers are tough. It's late. It's been a full day, so I apologize.
I feel you, man. Well, it's good to be back, and we're going to have more content for you guys coming. Maybe we'll do something light, a little fun here, Justin, as we get to the latter part of the week, and then we'll bring back, all the vibes again for the preview coming up in Orlando, or here versus Orlando. And Orlando's, bringing a good side to this match. So one of the better teams will play in the upcoming fixtures here. So I'm excited for that one. Again, it's going to be a stiff test. We'll be back with the preview for that match. And for any news that comes out over this next week or so with injuries or whatnot, we'll absolutely be covering that for you all. But again, keep those eyes peeled to your social feeds. We're going to put out a nice little sizzle reel here for this last match with some cool cuts, some cool edits. Make sure you give that a like, and make sure you give us a like. If you like what you're hearing, throw a like, throw a subscribe to us on YouTube, on Apple, Spotify. Make sure you're subscribed and following our shows so you can get notified whenever we go live or whenever we drop a pod. You can be the first to know.
And Jake, quick plug for Connor Gunn, our media guy. So go follow him at Gunn, GUNN_media on Instagram. He's the one, and we're tagging him and doing a collab post with all the videos and the pictures that he's been taking at City Park have been awesome. Absolutely awesome. So shout out to Connor Gunn. We really appreciate everything he's doing for us. And we're excited to share this stuff with you. He's adding some pretty cool beats and mixing it up. He's obviously got a full-time job as well. So this is one where we're doing what we can. We're getting it out as soon as we can. And let us know if you guys have anything you want us to post.
Absolutely. Well, until we catch you all later this week or soon here, in the meantime, all for City.
All for City.